to the Hilltop Community Church and Fairmede Hilltop Neighborhood Candidates Forum for West Country Costa School District. I want to thank the candidates for coming in, and I want to thank Pastor Warren for opening up the church for us. And he will be streaming this live to Facebook tonight. And I also want to thank Don Gosney. He will be our timekeeper, and he will be recording this for Radio 3 Richmond. And our moderator tonight will be Todd Groves, former school board member. So with that, I'd like to start out by everybody standing up and doing the Pledge of Allegiance, if you don't mind. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And at this point, I'd like to give it to our moderator, Mr. Todd Groves.
Thank you, Earl. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, audience. We have a selection of questions here submitted in advance by both community members and apparently other school board candidates. And we'll try to get through them all. We'll be given 1 minute to introduce yourself. Is that true?
1.5.
1.5 minutes for introduction. You introduce yourself. 1:20 per question. I will start the first question with on my left with Mr. Duhan, and then each one will get a question subsequently, and then we'll cycle through as many questions as we can. With that, I'd say let's go straight to the introductions. Starting with you.
So, good evening and thank you for being here tonight. My name is Felicio Duhan, and I'm running for school board because I believe that we can do better. Too many students are failing and not reading and performing in math. I think we can do better at the district we want, in which families want to move to attend school and be the best for the students. I'll bring valuable experiences and perspectives to the school board. I'm a father with 2 daughters in the school district. They attend Washington Elementary in Point Richmond. I'm a Latino immigrant. Y vine a los Estados Unidos hablando nada de inglés. Came here speaking no English when we moved to the United States. So I understand what it's like to be a newcomer and come to this country and the value that education brings. I was able to attend UC Berkeley and UC San Diego thanks to great public schools, great public school teachers. I've dedicated my career to education. I'm a former teacher in a high-poverty inner-city school, so I know the challenges and, unfortunately, the trauma that too many of our students face. And then I've worked in education as an education leader, supporting districts, superintendents, as they turn their schools and districts around. And I want to bring that expertise to West Contra Costa because I believe it can be a district that's attracting families and attracting students. So, as a father, as a teacher, as an educator, and as an immigrant, I want to bring those experiences to the school board to improve our education. Right on time.
Okay. My name is Consuelo Lara, and I am consider myself the teaching and learning candidate. I'm 38 years of classroom teaching and 16 years here in the community. And I, for the last 3 years, have been retired and working in the community, volunteering, and also in our high school with at-risk girls, and also working with the Future Teacher Club. I really love this community and learned so much more. The thing that I see is that there's a disconnect between the schools and the community. We need to make sure that there's more interaction between them, and I know how to bring that about. And I really feel like in our district, there are a lot of golden gems around there that a lot of people don't know about, things that are famous across the country, award-winning programs that we have going on. So those are the things that I want to see get more publicity and expand and support. And also I'd like to see us have our own homegrown teachers and our own homegrown leaders. and we are on the way to doing that. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Vanessa A. Calloway, born and raised here in Richmond, California, attended public schools here in Richmond, California, so I am a product of not only the school system, but the community as well. And I'm running for West Contra Costa Unified School District Board Trustee seat because I feel that there's a need and a void that I can fill. I've been on both sides of the debate where I've been a resident as well as an unclassified employee. And I believe I have what it takes, the love, the compassion, and the wherewithal to put the feet to the ground and build the relationships necessary to make sure that the community and the parents feel that they are included in the decisions that we're making pertaining to their children, our future. And so I just feel that I'm one of the best of the three that you will be voting for November 6th. So remember Vanessa A. Calloway. Thank you.
My name is Michael.
Michael.
Hello? You have an equity issue right from the beginning. My name is Michael Gonzalez, and I am the fourth child of Andrew and Ruth Gonzalez, who at a very tender age decided to move their children out of Jones County in Mississippi to provide an opportunity for their children to be raised in a way that they can grow and be all that their talents and skills and efforts would allow them to be. So with that, they moved from Mississippi to San Francisco, California, where I was born and raised. And I learned the value of helping people as well as the desire to help those who help. With that in mind, my wife and I started a non-denominational church in central Richmond, where we have been serving the community through that church and on that platform for the last 11 years. In the meantime, with all that extra time, what I've done is become an educational researcher, a high school principal, a classroom teacher, and have gained valuable experience from going around the state of California, reforming, changing, transforming school districts by applying scientific methods to improve instruction and the instructional systems of those districts. I'm running for West Contra Costa because I want to bring the heart and soul of Andrew and Ruth Gonzalez to this effort, as well as the scientific principles that I've garnered over the years as an educational researcher in over 100 different schools and 25 different districts in the state of California.
I'm going to stand because I have a light on my face. Good evening. My name is Carlos Tawara. I'm running for school board. And let me tell you something about myself. I have been a teacher and counselor in our district for more than 21 years. One of my sons attended our schools, our high school. And one of my grandsons will soon attend kindergarten in our district. My campaign, Defend and Reform Public Education, centers around two fundamental objectives. One, to do something about the so-called achievement opportunity gap, the differential in academic scores between groups of students of different ethnicities and income. Secondly, the second fundamental objective of my campaign is to bring a measure of rationality and common sense to our district. We are subsidizing an alternative district at great financial, academic, and cultural cost to ourselves. So I will insist, if elected, on a fundamental academic reform, and I would want our district to make a stand for public education. That is, for a system of public education which is democratically controlled. And that means taking a position against encroachment from charter schools. Thank you very much.
Usually I like to stand too, but I don't think the lights will hit my face. Good evening. My name is Anthony Gatto, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I'm a young man that feels called to serve. For the past few years, I've been working as a community organizer in Richmond, meaning that I've been listening to the needs of people, students, teachers, community members, all of the above, listening to those needs and acting on those needs. I've attended almost every single school board meeting the past few years. I've attended school board meetings in other school districts as well, just to compare what we're doing to what others are doing. Likewise, I've attended school site council meetings in our district and in other districts. The reason that I'm running is because I feel that I could add energy, passion, and drive to this board, and I feel that that's something that we need. There's a lot of problems right now in our district, and I'm not saying I have all of the solutions, but I've been hearing solutions from people, and a lot of these people don't feel like they're being heard. And that's why I'm running. I'm running because I want to make sure the community has a voice on that board. Part of my campaign has been doing research into what other school districts have done and on what ideas we could bring in our district. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I just want to ensure that we're really providing the best education for our students by trying out the best methods. For example, suspension is a huge problem in this district. And I believe it's the Baltimore School District. As soon as a student gets suspended, they get assigned a mentor. And that mentor prevents future suspensions by giving that student the one-on-one attention that they need. It's by doing research like this that I'm hoping to better our school district to ensure that we're trying the best methods that we can for our students and teachers. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Tiffany Brinsley. I am a Bay Area native, a second-generation Bay Area native. I grew up in El Cerrito and attended schools in El Cerrito and Richmond before going off to UC Santa Barbara. I'm now the mother of 3 children who have matriculated in the district, the youngest of which is now in middle school here. I've worked at the University of California for most of my career, 15 years at the University of California, 8 of those years as assistant director for MBA admissions at the Hospital of Business. And I spent much of my time there working in diversity efforts. I'm very passionate about education and very passionate about serving underserved communities. What I'm most committed to is while working on the board, as I hope to be elected to the board, is improving our academic achievement and success for our students, building a safe and healthy school environment, promoting educational equity and empowerment for our students, and establishing a pre-K through college pipeline so that every student in the district receives the quality of education that will prepare them to be eligible for any college or university they choose to attend, should they choose to attend a college or university. I think I have valuable experience to bring to the board. I think having seen it from the other side as an admissions officer and knowing what it means to be a competitively eligible student, I can help build that kind of pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening. I want to thank Hilltop Community Church for making this available tonight. This is a wonderful forum. It's a different experience for us, although we've had quite a few opportunities to present forums. I'm Alan Cronenberg. I'm one of your 11 choices for school board this year. I've been on the school board since 2006, and I've been involved in the school district since the mid-'80s when my oldest daughter started kindergarten, and my youngest daughter graduated from high school in 2007. So that was my years of service as a parent. I was a parent leader. I was somebody who was on site council. I was elected to many different district committees. I decided that I wanted to move on and serve the district in a bigger way. In my day job, I was a teacher. I'm retired now, but I did win the State Teaching Award for Adult Education in 2003. I'm a strong teacher, and I really believe that teachers are the key to success for our students. What I'm hoping for to do in the next 2 years for this term would be to continue to invest in our teachers. We've done that by raising their salaries so that we can now attract and retain teachers. But I think we need to grow our teachers. We need to give support within our schools to make our students want to become our teachers. and have a homegrown field of teachers right here.
My name is Stephanie Hernandez-Jarvis, and I am from Ensenada, Baja California, Mexico, and I came here at the age of 10 because my parents believed in the power of a public education, which I could not readily access in my hometown. I'm a mother, and I'm a public school teacher, and I'm also the wife of a teacher. And in our household, we really emphasize the value of an early childhood education. I think we need to improve the ECE opportunities that our kids have, and that families don't have, quite honestly, without having knowledge of where they can go. I think our schools need to do a better job at reaching out to families early on in the first years of life of a child. I really had a hard time transferring from high school to college because even though my public schools prepared me for college, the institutions of higher ed weren't prepared for me as an undocumented student. And I think that we need to do better at connecting undocumented students here in our district with the resources that they need early on in high school to know what they're going to be up against and to know how to navigate college once they graduate our schools. I began working in schools in Santa Barbara when I was 19 because that was my calling, to be an instructional assistant for 3 years. And I moved on from high school to special education to kindergarten. And when I started in kinder, I fell in love. So this is my 5th year teaching kinder, and I strongly believe in early childhood education and in access to college and career opportunities as soon as you graduate. Thank you.
You broke it, you bought it.
I didn't know this was going to require mechanical skills. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for having me here tonight in this beautiful, beautiful church. My name is Liz Block, and I'm running for my 2nd term on the Board of Education. I hope by the end of the evening you'll see why I deserve a 2nd term on the board. During my first 4 years in office, I pushed for and we achieved 15% raises for many of our teaching and other staff members. We put more dollars towards improving teaching and learning. I headed a committee that put in spending controls in our $1.6 billion bond project, the one that we've all been paying for when we do our taxes. And we began an ambitious project to improve climate in our schools and make sure that our disciplinary procedures are fair to everyone. But we still have far more work to do. That is why in my 2nd term, I will continue to use metrics to improve student academic levels. I'll bring more support to our teachers and make sure that we treat all teachers and students with respect. As a leader who represents a new direction for the West Contra Costa Unified School District, my priorities have always been putting kids first, rebuilding trust in our schools, and equipping our students for success in the 21st century economy. Thank you.
All right, we'll get to our first question. Again, we'll start with Mr. Duhan, and then each one of you will answer questions. The first question is, the City of Richmond currently has a moratorium on new school construction on city-owned properties. Do you agree with the city moratorium on new school construction? Yes or no, and why?
So, good question. We really have to look at what the needs are and how many students are being served. When I look at schools, there's definitely a need to upgrade and upkeep schools. So, to me, it's a balance of what's needed for the community and what's needed for students. We always have to be thinking about what the physical building is part of the sign of the culture of the school and how we can improve and have a physical space that's safe, that promotes academic learning and really resonates with the culture that we want to have, which is high achievement. Specifically, as far as the moratorium, the school board member, I've been working with city council, mayor, school leaders to really chart a path that makes sense for the school district in order to provide the facilities that are needed for students, for teachers, and for teaching and learning. So for me, it would be explore what makes sense for our students.
I get 14 seconds.
You want more?
There we go. In a word, yes, I believe we need to have a moratorium, absolutely. We have 14 charter schools in this district, and I think that's enough. That's plenty of choice if people want to, need choice for their students. And also, the money that's going to that construction needs to be put into making our facilities or all the other schools more equitable. It's a really big issue for us. So I would say yes, we need to have a moratorium on those. And also, the other thing I'm concerned about this construction is they often use non-union workers, and that's a problem for me. Thank you.
Yes, I support the moratorium. And as Patricio said, it's always best for our students and our staff. Safety and what makes sense. And so it's a lot of us all want. So yes, I support it. Yes, I think we should also support the construction of it. But I do believe that it should be union-based. And the residents within our district should be the ones hired for those jobs to actually build and do the necessary things that's necessary for our facilities. And so, yes.
I spent the day at Stige, which I believe is in Richmond. I would support a moratorium with the exception of elementary schools of Stige and Lake. It is grossly unfair to those students to go to schools that were constructed, I can't even tell what era they were constructed in. It's grossly unfair to the teachers, it's grossly unfair to the parents, and in some respects, it's actually dangerous. So while I support the idea that we don't need any more charter schools built in the city of Richmond, or actually the state of California, the reality is that we have a very savage inequality happening right now at Lake, at Stige, and at Juan Crespi.
Okay, the moratorium that was passed by the city of Richmond was passed in response to the just demand from the community of the city. Like somebody else mentioned earlier, Richmond already has, I think, something like 99% of all the charter schools in our district are located in the city of Richmond. Although the moratorium does not mention charter schools at all, they knew that it was meant for them. I congratulated when it was passed. I spoke at the city council. I congratulated those involved in the formulation of this moratorium. And I think that the city of Richmond set an example that, in my opinion, should be followed by all the other cities that make up our district. I think that we have had enough subsidizing an alternative school district. Like I said earlier, at a great cost to our district and to our programs. So yes, I support it. Thank you.
I'm gonna do two things right now. One, I'm gonna state the facts of what the moratorium is, because I think aside from Carlos, my colleagues are a little bit confused by what it actually is. And the second thing is I'm asking the question to share my opinion. So the moratorium was passed in the city of Richmond. Carlos and I were both there, and it just prevents new school construction. It doesn't say anything about charter schools. It doesn't say anything about rehabilitating current schools. It just talks about building new schools. Now, the reason why I support this is because the whole purpose of the moratorium, which only lasts 12 months, is to assess the land that we're building the schools on. So, for example, John Henry High School, or AMPS, however you want to refer to the school, it's in Richmond Marina. Now, that's prime real estate right there. That could be a shopping center that could bring sales tax to the city of Richmond. That could be luxury housing that could bring property taxes to our school district. Now, the issue is right now we have a lot of schools that are being built on these prime real estate locations. So I support this 12-month moratorium because we need to assess the land and make sure that we're not spending money to build schools on areas that could be bringing revenue to the school district and to the city. After that assessment, once that 12 months ends, school construction begins again. So again, I support the moratorium because I think we need to assess the land, and that's the facts of what this moratorium is.
Well, I'm going to kind of echo what's been said. I think we need to assess the needs of our very disparate communities within the district. The needs of our different communities are distinctly unique, and I think we have to assess what the needs are before we can. And I think we're going to have very different opinions about whether or not we support a moratorium. I live in a city that's growing. I live in Hercules, and we have 5 schools that accommodate our growing community, and we currently have over 30 students in every single classroom, either in our elementary schools. And it's only growing. We're creating new housing, and it's growing. But I'm also looking at schools like like Fairmede in El Cerrito, which is one of the oldest schools in El Cerrito, and has a large number of students that have special needs, have physical needs, and the school currently can't really accommodate those adequately. So I'm thinking about funding for construction of new schools as opposed to funding for the reconstruction of existing schools. And so that would be a factor for me in deciding that right now a moratorium perhaps makes sense.
Mr. Carroll gave a good synopsis of how this works. This is the moratorium is not a school board moratorium. We didn't vote on it, the city of Richmond did. And it doesn't in any way, shape, or form impact our building program. So Stage and Lake and all of our other schools in Richmond and outside of Richmond are not in any way affected by the moratorium. We have our own facilities master plan, we're moving ahead on that. The moratorium is designed to determine whether or not building new schools is in the best economic interest of the city of Richmond. And that remains to be seen. It's a creative idea because they reached a point where they were becoming saturated by charter schools. So as I said, it has nothing to do with district schools. It only has to do with non-district schools. So it doesn't say that. There's no way it can impact us because we already own our property and we can build on our property. We're not looking to buy new property to build on. I absolutely support it, and I think it would be a good, it's a smart move for other cities to take a look at to see if they want to replicate it.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The city of Richmond currently has a moratorium on new school construction on city-owned properties. Do you agree with the city moratorium on new school construction? Yes or no? Why?
So I am really grateful that Anthony explained the moratorium as well as Madeline and Tiffany. I think it's interesting, that we are talking about a moratorium by the city, and I think it does affect our families and our community. At the same time, I do support having an assessment to be fiscally responsible as well as ensure safety of our students. So if we're talking about building new schools in the city, I do think that we have to be putting the safety of our kids first. At the same time, if we can ensure that our kids are safe at our current schools, and need minimal remodeling, I think that we can invest those funds in a different area that our students need the most. And because this is a city moratorium and it's not our school district doing it, I think that we need to support what the city does to make sure that they're using the taxpayer dollars correctly. Thank you.
Well, what's this world coming to when a city doesn't want schools? I don't know what to say about that, but I don't think it matters that much right now because we don't need to build schools in Richmond. We have too many schools. We have schools that are sitting empty that are just costing us a lot of money to maintain. So I'm definitely of the opinion that we should be using the spaces that we have before we invest more money in schools. But I think it's a curious decision for Richmond because there's so much blight in the city. Why are they turning down any kind of construction and movement and change? I think, I don't know, it doesn't, I'd like to talk more to the representatives from the city who think it's an important step to take. And so we don't need more schools now. I hope if we do need schools in Richmond, at some point we can build them. But right now, we've got some schools in Richmond that need to be improved, and we need to find a way to do that for our kids.
Okay, next question. This question is what? Let's see. How many times do you think a charter school should be allowed to come up for serious disciplinary action before you revoke the charter? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Could you repeat it one more time?
Sure, one more. How many times do you think a charter school should be allowed to come up for serious disciplinary action before you revoke the charter? Before, I assume you as the school board, and before a school board would revoke a charter as law. That's my interpretation.
Okay. I think it's, I can't say how many times. I do believe that the school board needs to be the ultimate decision maker about revoking or accepting petitions, etc., for their school board. I don't think there should be any appeals. But on the other hand, well, it's not the other hand, but in addition, very concerned about, I don't think we could just close a school just like that without a very serious cause, very, very serious cause. Because you've got so many families and children who are in there who may be doing very, very well. And because there are adults who are not following the guidelines they're supposed to, then those children get punished by having their school closed. So it's very individualistic. I would take a very serious look at each case and what that means. So I couldn't give you an exact number, but yeah, that's my answer.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure, no problem. How many times do you think the charter school should be allowed to come up for serious disciplinary action before you, meaning the school board, I assume, revoke that charter?
Well, serious would have to be defined on who's looking at it and like what actually happened. So if it's in the endangerment of a child, whether it's sexual, whether it's harming physically, then I think that's a one-time you're out type of situation, in my opinion. The other situations in regards to serious, because they don't give a lot of information on the stance of what serious is, then I think collectively as a board member, we would have to discuss and look at it and do a intense investigation on what, so again, it would be a case-by-case situation.
In 1992, the state of California became the second state of the union to authorize the establishment of charter schools. The rules have not really changed since 1992, and therefore, as a member of this board, I would be working with other board members and locating other boards of trustees interested in going to the state of California and establishing greater rules of accountability, as well as parameters that govern charter schools under the current conditions and not those that predate the internet. In terms of directly answering the question, I think that anybody that either has had children or been in a classroom understands that if you establish a number, like you can only disobey me 6 times, you know, you disobey 5.5. So there is no number, but again, there's a need for statewide reform, and at the same time, you have to consider things on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so how many times? Once is enough, and it depends, of course, on the infraction. Okay, but once is enough, and only one instance, only one institution should have the right to decide whether to accept or reject the petition from a charter school, and that is the district where the charter school wants to locate. I think it's simply it's high time now to make charter schools abide by the law. I have a piece of paper here calling the legislative obituary, where we have SB 1362, SB 808, SB 1360, AB 1478. All of these aim to make charter schools follow the 1992 charter school law. They haven't. They have not. So I'd say for any school, one infraction is enough. Okay? They need to be made to follow the law and respect our district. They are an imposition. Okay? And they are an expense, like I said earlier, and I won't stop, an expense that we cannot afford to continue engaging in. Thank you.
So for me, it's not a question about how many times, but whether this is a systemic issue or a personal issue. So for example, if you have a charter school and a teacher is caught sexually harassing a student, then that teacher needs to be dealt with. But if the charter school has a systematic problem where they're not having mandatory reporting or where they're not monitoring the situation the right way, then that charter school needs to be closed down because there's an issue with the way that they're running things. Going to the whole charter revocation thing, right now it's a shame to me that some of our charter schools are not underneath our own jurisdiction. So for example, last night the County Board of Education was hearing about the re-petition of Summit, the charter school. That's a school that's within our boundaries. Those students are using our tax dollars, but our school board does not have the say on whether they stay open or whether they close. That's the county. And to me, there needs to be serious reform because, again, our money, our students, our jurisdiction, we should be the ones to have the final say. Thank you.
So my questions are, how are we defining serious disciplinary action? And are we holding all schools accountable to the same standards? Are we holding public schools accountable to the same standards we're holding charter schools? I'm a product of public schools in the district. I'm a parent of public schools in the district. And far too many times I have been either a witness of or a privy to information about various forms of assault on school campuses. And those schools are still in existence. And so Anthony brings a good point. Is this an individual issue of an individual incident, or is it a systemic issue? And if it's a systemic issue, then we need to deal with it in a systemic fashion. Individual incidents of violence, of assault, of any sort of violation, we need to be dealt with. They need to be dealt with. And we need to get serious about it because we need to keep our children safe at all of our schools, whether they be charter or public.
Waiting for it.
Well, wait for you to speak.
So how many times with a serious violation, if it's a very serious violation, one time is enough to do a revocation. I think I'm the only person here who's voted to revoke a charter. The two parts to revoking a charter are there's tremendous emphasis on student performance at the charter school. So that has to be taken into account. The other problem with the revocation is that it is not local, as we've said. The revocation can be appealed, and you can spend it can be appealed to the county level or it can be appealed to the state level. So when a school board takes the steps to do a revocation, and it very likely will go up. That's something that really does need to change. We need to have local control over our charter schools. We have no local control over our charter schools. That's why we have so many in our district that were not approved by our local school board, but were instead approved by either the county or the state. If it's serious enough, once is enough, but it has to be able to be proven. And the only discipline we can give, we can't fire their employees, they're not our employees. Our discipline is to close the school.
As a mandated reporter, I know that my student safety is the number one in our classrooms. If it's something serious, like sexual abuse, like neglect, I think that one instance is enough to really call for a serious look at an investigation and a revocation. I do believe that if it's a one-off incident where it's an individual at the school and it's not as serious in nature, we need to look at how we're going to improve the way that that charter serves the students by changing the staff if that's the need that we need to address. I also think that we need to create a local oversight committee that actually is made up of parents, of community members, and organizations and teachers who have the best interest of the kids and their education in mind. I think that having that will provide an outlet that's very real, very tangible, and very truthful about advocating for our kids and putting them first. I also think that if we jump into conclusions too quickly, we're opening our district up for lawsuits. And that's only going to move away money from education and from classrooms and into legal fees that should not be having to take away money from our kids. So if we have their best interests in mind, we need to use data to move forward with the revocation process, and we also need to look at how it's going to affect the kids that will be taken away from that school. Thank you.
Whenever a charter is violating the tenets of its charter, the board has an obligation to issue a notice of violation in the areas that the charter school is not performing in. And then if the school cannot show that they actually are doing the things they're supposed to do, or that they can correct them immediately, we could keep the school open. But if not, the school needs to be closed. There's a misconception about charter schools. They have far more flexibility than our district's traditional schools. Far more flexibility. Flexibility that, frankly, our district schools would like to have. But they actually have more accountability. Schools in the district don't have to go and petition every 5 years to stay open. Do you think some of our schools would be open if they did? No, they wouldn't be. So we do have a lot of accountability for charter schools, and we're trying to get more in the state. The charter schools themselves are trying to get more. So I think it's time for some changes, but we do have a good system for revocation now.
All right, this next question goes to legislature. I'm so sorry. My apologies.
Okay. So I think if it's imminent danger to students, it's a systemic problem. One time is enough. And I'm willing and desiring to work with others to reform the California state law around charter school, because in too many communities and in our community, it's not working. There's too much unknown. If you followed what happened yesterday at the school board, even the school district's lawyer was confused as to what constituted imminent danger and what constituted the ability for the school board to revoke the charter. So To me, that's a nonsensical law, a nonsensical situation. We need to reform that. We need to work together to reform that. And as far as the charter versus traditional, I always think about the students. And unfortunately, too many of our students are not succeeding in our traditional public schools. And parents and families are voting with their feet. So as part of this, and part of what I would bring to the board is really to focus on teaching and learning in the classroom and see how quickly we can get, blow out the 30% of students that aren't reading in 3rd grade. Right now, if your child isn't reading in 3rd grade, you are doomed as a parent, as a family. You are on a path to disengagement and to failure. And that's why too many people are choosing charter schools. We need to change that dynamic.
So this is the third question. There are 13 charter schools in the district. There are estimates that these charter schools will cost the district a loss of approximately $40 million or more, presumably per year. What do you plan to do if elected to reinvest in our traditional public schools? Everybody get a question?
Actually, there's 14 charter schools within our district,
14.
and 11 of them are in Richmond.
You want to go ahead and answer it?
I'm sorry?
I can restate that the actual question is, what do you plan to do if elected to reinvest in our traditional public schools?
Thank you.
Sure.
And so, building relationships with our families, preparing our teachers and giving them the tools that they need to work with the diversity that's in their classrooms. And so, education isn't a one-size-fits-all. And so we have to make sure that our teachers are equipped with everything that they need for the young people that enter into their classrooms. And so professional development, giving them the tools, again, that they need, hearing the voices of the parents on what they feel that their students need as well. And so it's not just a one fix, it's a collaborative fix. And so we have to work together with the community as well as with the schools. The charter school issue, Patricio alluded to it to a degree, is that the parents, they don't have anywhere else to go. They can't afford private school, and public school isn't meeting their target, right? And so they're feeling like we're failing them. In cases we actually are. When you have a district that have 70% of their students not reading at grade level, that's a failure. And it's our Black and brown students that is impacting the most. And so to really, okay, my time is up.
Could you repeat the last part of that question?
Sure. What do you plan to do if elected to reinvest in our traditional public schools?
So, this school district currently has a plan entitled Roadmap 2022. And a lot of effort and a lot of work went into establishing goals and objectives as well as strategies to improve the public school system in West Contra. The problem is that some of it is not aligned to the best practices and research-proven strategies that have turned around other schools. What we need to do is simply buy for everybody on the board a book called No More Excuses. No More Excuses shows the history of success of 21 districts in California that utilize the principles established by the California Department of Education to turn around school districts. And if you just use the roadmap on that book and put it over the current roadmap 2022, you would then, without spending, you'd spend very little money, you would be able to invest in the system, make it work, make it much more urgent, and address the needs of the students who have been left behind. Basically, what we are seeing in our school district is students are crying out for help, and they're being ignored because we're not applying scientific principles to improve our school district.
Well, I think that we I know we are a school district with 60-something campuses. And the best way to reinvest in our traditional schools is to rethink our programs, to start taking the first steps toward a fundamental revision of our academic programs. At the high school level, I think that we have outsourced our program to the National Academic Foundation. We are already committed to fulfilling the goals, the objectives of many philanthropic individuals and philanthropic organizations. We need to focus on our students. The famous Roadmap 2022 will not be met, the goals will not be met without a fundamental revision of our academic objectives. How we want to increase the percentage of seniors that are college ready 10% every year for the next 4 years without a fundamental revision of our programs, how we teach math, how we teach English, how we teach social science, all the way from the beginning. Because the achievement gap begins way back before kindergarten. So I will focus on our schools and the learning of our children. Thank you.
So to me, the issue isn't to approve or disapprove a charter school. Parents send their students to charter schools because they don't feel comfortable sending their students to district schools. So the answer to me is we need to improve our district schools to the point where parents don't feel the need to send their students to a charter school. So the question was, how do we reinvest in our district schools to get there? I'm a big fan of small solutions that have big impacts. There's a lot of structural things that we can be doing that can have big impact. So for example, this mother told me, she's a mother at a John Henry high school, and she told me that she sent her child to that charter school because she wants her child to go to college. And I said, well, what's your district school? She said, Kennedy High School. And I said, well, why not send your student there? And she said, because they don't have a high rate of students going to college. I looked into it. Our standards aren't equivalent to the qualification standards to go to college. That means that you could get a degree from this school district and still not qualify to go to college because our standards aren't the same. How do we expect to put our students up for success when we're not even expecting them to get all the way there? So if we really, really want to close down charter schools, it starts with the parents. We need to get them comfortable going to our district schools. And in order to get them comfortable, we need to improve our district schools to the point where they don't need to send their students anymore. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited about this question because I think there's so much that we can do. I talked about earlier about developing a pre-K to college pipeline. We can do that by partnering with our local colleges and universities who have programs in existence already that can help us develop programs within our public schools that will help students, that will add to the value of the learning, the academic learning that our students currently receive. Community building, we have to do the community building and build partnerships with parents and teachers and concerned community members and our children. We have to listen to them. We have to make them feel engaged and welcomed. We want to hear their voices, and I think a lot of families right now don't feel like their voices are valued in the district, by the board, where they don't have a place, and it's really frustrating. Likewise, teachers are feeling frustrated that they are not being seen. So I think there are so many things that we can do. We can also partner with outside organizations so that we can broaden this network. Nonprofit organizations. At a forum recently, I mentioned the Mosaic Project, which is run out of Berkeley currently, and other districts even. I spoke with a teacher from Orinda, and they have resources that they said they'd love to bring over to us.
This is a good question. Where to reinvest and double down on investments in district schools. So first and foremost, we began that within the last year with the continual investment in our staff. We had an enormous turnover in our teaching staff. So what we had were teachers who were always just learning how to teach and practicing on our kids before they went to other districts. So we invested in their salaries to make that kind of change so that we can grow a core of teachers who are professionals and who are experienced in their work. We've also invested in making some changes and expanding the offerings we have. We opened the first West County Mandarin school. We've expanded our dual immersion schools. Well, one of the things we really need to do is grow our pathway programs to connect with Contra Costa College. Contra Costa College is very anxious to have every one of our students be concurrently enrolled, all of our high school students. And that's the first step for them. Then they are in college. And we can do that. That is a very viable thing for us to do. And I think it's something we will do.
So, as I shared earlier, I came here when I was 10. And the whole reason for coming here was because my parents believed that I could access a better education in the United States. A lot of parents who believe that and brought their kids, we saw what happened to them this summer. Kids in cages. We know kids belong in schools and at home, not in cages. We know that all of us here at this forum and in our community. How do we make our schools better? By keeping our teachers, by growing them, by helping them thrive in the profession, by having a strong teacher induction program, and by having an extended support system that has teachers teaching teachers, a peer-to-peer mentorship that is really sustainable and that we can pay at the hourly rate so our teachers are still getting paid and valued for their profession. We need to really move forward with establishing partnerships with interns for counseling, for nursing, and for psychologist positions, because it's really abysmal that we don't have counselors at our schools. I teach at a dual language immersion with one principal, no vice principal, and it's a kindergarten through 8th school in Pinole, Stewart. So he's in charge of managing an elementary site, a middle school, and a dual language immersion. This is our 5th year with the program, and it takes a lot. It takes a really big, dedicated group of educators to move things like this forward at our schools. Thank you.
There's a list that I wrote down, and I'll just go through it. We need to pay some of our teachers more to work in high-poverty schools. We could do that by having the school day be 1 hour longer at those schools to attract teachers who would like to earn more money. We need to look to schools with similar demographics in our state that are being successful. There are a lot of them, just like Mr. Gonzalez was saying. We need to put more rigor into our classes. We need to reclassify kids sooner so they can get into the more challenging curriculum. We do it later. We put that off as long as possible. We have kind of a crazy system. We need more intervention early. We need to spend money wisely. Yesterday we approved a dental office at Pinole Valley High School. We approved a $125,000 position for disaster preparedness. We don't need that position. I've been in 30,000 kid districts before. We don't have that position. The principals do that. We have to spend our money in the classroom, teachers.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The essence of the question is, what do we plan to do if elected to reinvest in our traditional public schools?
So, as I said before, for me, it's all about what's best for students and what's best for teaching and learning. Every vote, everything that I would look at would be, with that lens in mind. Is this good for students? Is this good for teaching and learning? In too many cases right now, like I said previously, we're not meeting the needs of students, and we need to reinvest in that. 70% of our third graders are not reading on grade level. 90% of African American sixth graders are not proficient in math. 90%, that means 10% aren't. So we're not doing a good job for too many of our students and too many of our high poverty African American and Latino students. We need to change that. So we need to focus on learning. We've been hiring over 200 teachers in a year in the district, and the majority are going to the neediest classrooms. So we need to change that dynamic. It's not what's best for the adult, it's what's best for students. So we need to establish policies to work with the teachers union to say we We need to have our highest quality teachers in our most needy classrooms in our most needy schools. So I would focus on that and have everything that I look at from that lens. What's best for students? We also need to develop our principles and have them change that culture at schools, that a culture that's focused on academic success and on rigorous learning.
Well, you know, within the district, it's a big district, and one size does not fit all. All the schools are not the same. Some are doing exceptional, and it's true that some are struggling. So we need to not generalize and say, oh, the district, you know, maybe that kind of bothers me. So what we need to do is invest in our teachers and teaching and learning aspects in our schools. Literacy is really a big issue. We need to find the most academically rigorous interventions there are. And I'm thinking there probably are some of those practices happening now in some of our schools. And we need to find those, support those, expand those, as well as finding through our partnerships, the universities, other school districts that are similar to ours. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to find and locate and support, expand, and duplicate those programs which we know are successful. I was in a school where we were the lowest in terms of reclassification, and within a few years, I saw us become the highest in terms of reclassifying students in our ELD department. I saw it, I know what it looks like, and I think I can help move that along. Thank you.
All right. This is the next question. And we'll start with Mr. Gonzalez. Do you agree with Superintendent Duffy's roadmap 2022?
No. You can travel, and I used this example before, but it really fits. You can travel from Embryville to Crockett via Highway 80 with no traffic, or on San Pablo Avenue with no traffic. One way is better than the other. The issue is, I believe that Mr. Duffy was given a directive to increase scores for certain population groups in this district, but not given the strategies that will enable that to happen. As has been mentioned before, there are at least 21 districts in California with similar demographics as this district that are doing extraordinarily better. And the only thing they did better is utilize the tools from the California Department of Education that are based on the principles that drastically improve learning and teaching for students who are traditionally disengaged. As has been said before, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We simply have to apply those scientific principles to this district and not look at, not look at the color and associate the color of the students with failure, but look at the practices of the district that are associated with failure.
Well, the question was very basic. Do you agree or disagree with the roadmap 2022? How can you disagree with a map? It's a map. It points to a direction. And it points to a direction where we all want our district to be. So as far as it goes that far, yes, I agree with the roadmap 2022. But it is rather short when it comes to details. It's rather short when it comes to how we're going to do it, and it's also rather short in specifying clearly what is it that we want to stop doing. Because there's some things that we are doing wrong, since we have had a 35, 36, 37, 38% of our high school graduates college ready for many years. So simply by saying that we're going to increase in 10% per year for the next 4 years, without telling us exactly how we're going to change the teaching of math, how we're going to change the teaching of social sciences. All those things need to be part of the map. As it is now, the map is a brand new car, all kinds of appliances and accessories, but it's sitting on concrete blocks. And it is the energy and the impetus that teacher control will only give us.
So when I was in 6th grade, my dad said, "What is your goal for this year?" And I said, "Dad, I want to get straight A's." And I left it at that. He was like, "Well, how are you gonna get straight A's? What are you gonna do?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna get straight A's." And he said, "Well, what's your plan?" So I said, "All right. Every day of the week, I'll study for this many hours, and over the weekends, I'll study this many hours. I'll limit TV hours to this many hours." And I got straight A's. But the point was, I had to come up with a plan to get there. So I don't disagree with this roadmap, but I disagree with its implementation. It has very, very fine goals. I want to see these goals happen, but there's nothing happening in the classroom to help us get there. When you talk to a teacher, when you talk to a student, we don't say, "Oh, are you about to reach Roadmap 2022's goal for 2018? We're not talking like that. What we're talking about is what's going on every single day, and what's going on in the classroom every single day isn't exactly reflecting what's supposed to happen according to the roadmap. So as a school board member, I would ask the superintendent to sit down with community members, sit down with teachers, sit down with students, sit down with hopefully myself as well, and let's come up with a plan for how we're supposed to achieve the goals set in Roadmap 2022.
So 2 things. I think it's great to have a plan, but having a plan of action to implement the plan, which I think is what Anthony was saying, if you don't have a plan of action to implement the plan, then having a plan does very little good, regardless of how great the plan might be. Also, is the plan reflective of the needs of the communities that it is to serve? And how were those needs assessed? And so, reflecting what Mr. Gonzalez was saying, we have to build in our community voice in anything and everything that we do. And it's not about looking at people and making assumptions about their achievement potential, but actually what the needs are in order for them to achieve. So we have to look at the very basic issues that are going on with the students, and somebody's got to invest the time to actually visit schools, talk to teachers, talk to students, talk to families, and make those kinds of assessments in creating and developing a plan. It doesn't seem that that was done.
So the short answer is yes, I support Superintendent Duffy's roadmap. The roadmap is really a set of goals, and it didn't include the specific how-tos that go through each classroom. And I'm not sure, which isn't to say that Mr. Duffy doesn't have that, but he didn't include it in that document. It's a document that's used to sort of present the district to the public in a variety of settings. There's going to be an event next week, next Friday, the State of the District Breakfast, which should give us a much more detailed piece of information from him about what the mechanisms are going to be to reach the goals of the program. And I think that's a conversation we can always continue, because the goals he has, in the way the district works, there are departments who are in charge of a variety of different things. Each of the targets that he's going to hit are overseen by a variety of different people, and the strategies that they're employing throughout the district are things that we could have shared at board meetings and somewhere on the website where people could really have time to look at it, because there's a lot to it when you're looking at how the changes are being made.
So this question really reminds me about what we're trying to do in regards to the educational inequities we have in the district. And as a teacher, it also reminds me of backwards planning, when we unit plan and when we lesson plan for our weekly activities. I do support the intent and also the ideas of the roadmap, but I think that as a teacher, I know that if you have the intention to teach something and you don't plan how you're going to do it, once you get there, you realize you don't have the materials ready. you realize that you didn't plan enough time for it, or that you plan too much time and then you don't have a backup activity. So I think that you need to have a concise plan about how we're going to get this done. Without a plan, we're just going to be hoping that we get there, but we need to have formative assessments and collective agreement on what we're going to accomplish and how we're going to do it. I think that we need to have a roadmap that is fiscally responsible and that's also really thoroughly thought out. I would believe that by now we would have the details about what specific action is going to be taken to achieve the intent of the roadmap. So I believe in urgency and also in basically unit planning at a district level, seeing how we're going to get there by looking backwards and what steps we're going to take there month by month. Thank you.
I think the superintendent is really proud of his roadmap, and he's put a lot of time into it. I don't think it's that valuable to me because, well, for the same reasons that many people have stated, it lacks specifics. What are they going to be doing differently that's going to make everything turn out differently? I mean, I could make a roadmap that I'm going to be 5'8" in 2022 and speak Mandarin, but, you know, until I start getting on that stretching machine and taking some heavy coursework with the kindergartners up at our school, I guess, I'm probably not going to get there. So I think a roadmap has to have the teachers involved to really be a serious document. But I applaud the superintendent's optimism, and I hope that he realizes that it's good that we have trust in the district now, but we still need concrete, specific remediation to get our kids to be where they need to be.
So when I looked at the document, studied it, it's really lofty goals, right? It's a roadmap for 2022, 4 years from now, and what I fear is if we don't have the specifics, if we don't have community engagement, if we don't have parents, then we're going to wake up in school year 2021, 2022 with, uh-oh, we missed the targets, let's have another roadmap 5 years from now, and just keep punching that down. So I think it's really good to have lofty goals, and now we got to develop, like others have said, a plan of action that's very specific and very targeted to address the inequities that we have and the needs that many of our students and families have. As a parent at my daughter's schools, there hasn't been any discussion about the plan, there hasn't been any discussion about the roadmap, and it's like nothing has changed. And I'm a parent that really has been paying attention to that, obviously, because I'm running for school board. So if I'm not seeing it, I can guarantee that many others are not seeing it. Not only to see a plan with detail, but also with some specifics as how I as a parent, how I as a community member, how I as a teacher can be part of that. And if we're going to set lofty goals, then we've got to get everyone on board rowing in the same direction. Because we can get to that place as long as we're working together with a specific plan of action. So I commend the superintendent for setting that lofty goal, but then we've got to work really hard to get those steps defined and work together to get there.
Every school in the district has an SPSA, the single plan for student achievement. In those plans, people have their goals, and I've never seen any kind of connection or between what the district goals may be and a site plan. I know these plans. I've written some with teachers, parents. You've got a lot of input to make those goals, and it's a living document that you can revise and modify as needed. So I kind of would like to see kind of a marriage between those district goals and the school goals. So I think, I think it's good. It's a good start. I think to say we're going to achieve those in 2022, it's just, we could probably do some of them a lot sooner. And again, it's going to vary by schools. And there's a couple of things that were left out. I'd like to see, so he identified a lot of good things, the literacy issues, the black students and brown students, and ELD and reclassification. Those were really important things to include. But I'd like to see things about students we want them job ready, college ready, how about job ready? and then also students who are biliterate, not just reclassified. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So when you asked the question, I thought about my students that I'm currently working with in Monterey Pines. And in August, we began vision boards. And the vision boards was to focus on the accomplishments they felt they needed to accomplish this school year compared to the accomplishments or lack of accomplishments of last school year. And so you had a variety of students putting different things on there. And as I walked around and asked the question, well, how are you going to do it? Well, I'm just making my board, Miss Vanessa. Don't it look good? No. How are you going to achieve that? So I have a young man who has been held back, and he wants to graduate with his class. It's possible, but you have to do the work. And so we created a shadowing program for him and different partnerships. And so school's been in for almost 100 days now, right? And so we revisited that. And so the roadmap, it looks pretty. We all know the issues there. The community knows the issue. However, how are we going to get there collectively? And Mr. Gonzalez said a few forums ago that we're in a state of emergency, and that is the truth if I've never heard it myself. And so being in a state of emergency, you don't wait because the emergency just grows. And like the wildfires, it spread. And so we have to do something now and not wait. And if the community doesn't know what the now is, they can't move on it.
Okay, this is our next question. Let's go to Mr. Paguada. The daycare costs are astronomical for a person on teacher salary. Do you think teacher daycare would attract more teachers to the district than teacher housing? Yes, sorry. Did you hear the question?
Yes, daycare, astronomical.
And so the essence of the question is daycare a better attractor of teachers than teacher housing?
Well, let's first talk about daycare. And yeah, it will, I think it's very effective measure to attract and retain teachers. We do have a problem here. I know of teachers who cannot afford to send their children to preschool. You know why? Because their economic level is not at the bottom of the barrel, and they're not at the top either. Both work, husband and wife work, but they cannot afford their income is too high to afford a subsidized preschool. So they cannot afford the $700, $800 that on the law preschools charge. So I think that we could do something. It's less involved than building a mega structure to house teachers. Less involved to talk to the various authorities in the 6 cities that comprise our district and see what arrangements can be made. To lower the income threshold so that our teachers with children that are already working in our district could continue working in our district without the huge financial sacrifice that it implies sending children to preschool. Thank you.
All right, so daycare versus teacher housing. This is a really softball question. I mean, the last question, we all pretty much had the same answer right there. You've heard the same thing 10 times. Let's tackle teacher housing first. The district shouldn't be having to provide housing to teachers. The district should be paying teachers enough to have their own housing. What is that? We're going to be setting up dorms for them to live like they're in college? And as for preschool, we're already providing preschool. It should automatically be free for our teachers to send their students to preschool. So the question shouldn't be daycare versus teacher housing, because both of those have nothing to do with each other. If you're an older teacher, you probably don't have kids that need to be in daycare. And if you are a younger teacher, you probably don't have, the district's not paying you enough to have your own house. So pay our teachers what they need to be paid so they can afford their own housing, and make daycare free, not just for our teachers, but for all parents. We need universal preschools. There's this mother that I talked to the other day, and I said this at the last forum. It was like noon, and she's with her 3-year-old, and she told me, she said, I'm scared that he's not going to succeed in life because I can't afford to put him in a good preschool program. And I said, well, what's wrong with our preschools? She says they're all full. The only place I can send them to is a private preschool, and I can't afford it. So free preschools for all, and pay teachers what they need to be paid.
As for which would attract teachers more or would attract more teachers, I think we have to ask the teachers. I think we have to ask the people that we're talking about serving. And then we're talking about a question of affordability and funding. How are we going to afford more housing for teachers, or how are we going to afford more daycare for teachers? And I have to agree with Anthony Currow and expand on that, is that our daycare is far too expensive and we have far too little. We don't have enough daycare options right now for the children currently in daycare, parents wanting daycare, the parents of the children in our schools, let alone our teachers. So we really need to expand that, and we need to make it more affordable. Economically, how are we going to do that? That's the question we really need to figure out. We need to figure it out fast.
This is a really good question. It hits home to me because the day I started as a teacher at Hayward Adult School, my principal randomly said, and you know, we offer free preschool for parents who have young children. I had a 6-week-old baby and a 1-year-old. When I put them both in the preschool at my site, and they had infant care, it doubled my salary because I didn't have to pay for the child care anymore. I think we absolutely should have universal preschool in California, in the United States, like other wise countries do. I also think that we should, I've looked at the housing situation. The housing situation is completely unaffordable for anybody who has the salaries that we offer our teachers. So we've got teachers who essentially live in dorms now with each other. We've got folks that live in garages. We've got folks that are couch surfers. And other districts throughout California are working hard to build communities of teacher housing. I think we have to continue to look at teacher housing as well. I don't think it should be a choice between the two. I think that both of them are very important.
This hits home for me. My daughter is actually here in the audience, and my husband, who's also a teacher, is taking care of her when I have to do other duties. And for me, when I chose to become a mom, it was a very tough transition from being, just a worker and focusing on me, my own ambitions, to really having to share that vision in a way that involved her in her education. Daycare is really expensive, and housing is very expensive. We're really in a crisis that includes both housing, how to balance a budget, how to put some kind of savings into one's account, and how to have your child in a high-quality early education program. If it wasn't for my sister, I wouldn't be able to be teaching full-time. I would have to find a part-time position and stay at home and take care of her, and then go to work when my husband gets home. I really became a teacher because I believe in the power of education, especially in early education. And here in the district, we only have Cameron for early interventions and for screening. Cameron School is where we refer students who we identify early on. But it's not enough for all the children that we need to serve and families. So yes, if we have a daycare center at our school, I would love to go, drop off my daughter and have peace of mind while I'm working. And we can have those in collective ways to have, one daycare center to serve 4 schools or something that's feasible. Thank you.
I think it'd be great if we had a high school pathway that was preschool teacher pathway, and we had a class. We could use the money from the dental office and set up a nice preschool class at one of our high schools. We did that in San Ramon, and then the kids went to the preschool run by teachers with high school students helping and learning how to run a preschool. It was pretty darn terrific. I'm going to have to say, I totally agree with Mr. Caro. We should be paying our teachers so they can pay their own rent. We're not developers. We need to focus on teaching. We don't need to be building housing for our teachers, and then let's say we do it. Let's say it works out and I'm wrong. Who's going to go there? How long are they staying? Is it going to be just teachers, or is it going to be classified? How many people are they going to get kicked out after 18 months? There's a plethora of issues that would have to be worked out. I think we're more congruent with the daycare role. It fits more with what we do. We take care of kids here. So that I would focus on the daycare.
So keeping our teachers has to be one of the priorities. Research shows that a high-quality teacher is the #1 factor in the success of a child. If you have multiple years of that, you're on the road to success, and if you don't, you're on the road to academic failure. And in too many cases, the school-to-prison pipeline. So I think keeping teachers in the district is a huge priority because it impacts learning so much. When I was a teacher, when I first started out, I couldn't afford rent and a car, so I chose rent because living in my car was a really good option. And then that's one of the reasons why I didn't stay in the classroom, because I couldn't really afford to stay in the classroom, but I over time stayed in education. So it's a reality for too many teachers. I think the compensation is definitely a big part of it. We have to keep looking at it. I support the raise that the district and the union came to. And I think that's a part of it. Another part of it is having a culture of academic success. A lot of teachers leave the district and go to another district, and I'm afraid that might still happen, even if they're getting paid more, because they're in a failing system, or in some cases a failing school. If you're a teacher and you're not succeeding, then you're going to also look for different opportunities. So we've got to focus on retaining teachers, change the culture in our schools, and then compensate, pay teachers so that they can afford to live in our communities.
Okay. Oh, I see. I would vote for universal daycare and higher pay for teachers. I think, remember here that in San Francisco they did build a structure for new teachers, and the teachers weren't living in it because they didn't want to live with a bunch, they were good teachers all day, and they didn't want to go home and with other teachers. Well, that could be a problem. But there's different kinds of housing that people have. There, a co-op might be appropriate, or some people have a large family, or some people have an extended family. So there would be so many different situations for teachers who, in terms of housing. So the higher pay would be best, and I do believe in universal daycare.
It's like asking the question, do I go to work or do I leave my infant child at home by themselves? You wouldn't do it. And so I believe that we need the universal preschool, of course, but also the teachers they do need more money, but we have to balance it out so that we're not giving more money, but then the classroom needs and the supplies in the classrooms are not being met. And so, so I believe in universal preschool, and I believe that we need to come up with a method that will solve both of the problems and not just fix one. Teachers need a better salary, but they also need quality child care.
Data-free decisions are dangerous. I believe a lot of things, but at the same time, we have to determine whether or not we can actually afford them. What's the cost benefit? Teacher retention is vital. I look into the eyes every day of new teachers in this district. I mentor new teachers. And when I look into their eyes, I see, especially in the month of September, when they just had about 4 or 5 weeks in this district, and they're from Iowa, or they're from somewhere far off, and they find themselves here in Richmond. There's a lot of concerns that they have, but they also have a lot of real life experiences that need to be marshaled and brought to the district. So they need to be given the reality. Here is the problem in this district. You are experiencing the ramifications of that problem. What suggestions do you have? So in terms of the issue of housing and child care, there may be other things as well that are not fit within that equation to promote teacher retention. So I would advocate pulling together a focus group of new teachers and veteran teachers.
Okay, time for the question portion of our session tonight. I'd like to give you each 1.5 minutes for closing statements, and this time we'll start on my right, which is Ms. Block.
Hang on a second. Clock's not right. Just a minute. There we go.
Ready? Okay. Okay, it's clear that all the people up here really care about improving the schools in our district. In fact, I've really grown to like everyone in this group. I think we should do something together other than this forum sometimes. Maybe bowling. I'm terrible. I'm unique because in this group because I worked in public schools for 35 years. I was a principal, a school psychologist, and a special education administrator. My goal was always to make life better for the kids in my school. And so I know how to improve schools because I did it myself. I had a school improvement grant. I worked in one of the lowest performing schools in California that was located in Bay Point. At that time, we used the API index, and we managed to bring up our API 61 points in 1 year by setting higher standards and doing a lot of remediation and working better with the parents. So I came to this board specifically to improve academic outcomes for our students, and we're working on it, but we have a lot more to do. Please vote for me, return me to the board so that I can continue to do the work of this district.
My name is Stephanie Hernandez-Jarvis, and I'm here as a public school teacher because I want to make this district the best district we can to make it together. I have a daughter who's going to spend over a decade here getting an education that I want her to really thrive in and to prepare her for college and for career opportunities. I'm here, and every day I'm with my students. I'm teaching them the basics that's going to propel them into a world of learning. I really support the expansion of dual language immersion programs so that we can provide our English learners with the tools they need to address their linguistic needs, and so that we can have bilingual, biliterate students and have all our students in the district benefit from DLI programs and really prepare them to be ready for the job market, to travel the world, to open their world through language and culture. I am a big proponent of No Place for Hate, of having student organizations led by students and guided by teachers. I think that having a social emotional learning curriculum is really going to help us reduce bullying at our schools, and we need to have these organizations and social emotional learning curriculum be used early on in elementary school so that we can prevent the problems that we see at middle schools and high schools. We really need to have someone who's a first-generation college and high school graduate in our school board and who sees the needs that we have in our immediate classrooms. Please vote for me. I humbly ask for your vote on November 6th. Thank you so much.
Thank you to everybody. I think this has been a really well done event, and I really appreciate the questions. We haven't seen or heard these questions before. I'm Madeline Cronenberg. I've been on the school board since 2006. My children have gone to the school district. I have a daughter in the district too. She's a teacher at El Cerrito High. She teaches in the same program she graduated from. I am convinced that our children will be best served if we invest in our teachers. And my goal for us is that we grow our own teachers, that we start an education academy and have it grow throughout the district, so that our teachers are homegrown, our teachers are a part of of the lifeblood of our district. I also believe what we need to do to advance student achievement is to address the achievement gap and increase what we've done with community schools. Bring wraparound services to our children who are struggling with poverty, and bring all kinds of services into our schools that need to have them. And finally, we need safe schools. We need buildings that are safe. We need physically for them to be safe, and we need for them to be emotionally safe. We need to address our issues around bullying. We need to take a look at what we've done and expand restorative justice programs and other kinds of programs that allow our students to become closer to each other and look to each other as friends and not as competitors. I ask humbly for your vote, and you can check out more about me on madelineverberg.com.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out this evening, taking the time to listen to us. We really appreciate it. My name is Tiffany Grimsley. You can learn more about me by going to my website at tiffanygrimsley.co, or you can email me directly at tiffanygrimsley@tiffanygrimsley.co. I'm a product of this district. I'm a parent in this district. I've been a volunteer in our schools. I've served on my son's school site committee. I've worked with the district as a yard supervisor, as an instructional aide. I can bring all of that experience, plus my experience working for the University of California in admissions and doing pipeline building and networking with outside organizations, and bring those skills to the West Contra Costa Unified School District. I can also bring my experience as a budget manager for the University of California to help with our fiscal responsibilities here. I love West Contra Costa Unified School District, and I see so many improvements that we can make, and I believe that we can do work, and we just have to do it together. So I really want to work on the community building side, partnering with teachers, with parents, with concerned community members, developing strong town hall meetings, small group forums, so that everyone has a voice. Thank you.
My name is Anthony Gatto, and I'm running for West County School Board. I don't have all the answers, but I have answers. And these answers just haven't come from me in my mind. These answers have come to the people I've been talking to. Beyond my campaign, beyond these past few months, I'm talking about these past few years, I've been sitting down with students, teachers, and parents and asking, what do you need, and what do you want to see happen in the school board, in the school district as well? My problem is that too many of our school board members have just sat on their hands and passed by while all these issues are happening. Too many of our students are failing not because they're failing themselves, but because we're failing them. Too many of our parents feel that they're being neglected because the school district isn't listening to them when they say, hey, there's a problem, and here's something we might do. The reason why I'm running for school board is because I feel that we need somebody who's energetic, who's passionate, who's here in the community, and who knows how to be a good listener. That's why I'm running. Every weekend for the past few weekends, I've been door-to-door knocking. I've been phone calling. I've been out in the community. I've been listening. Now ask yourself, you have 3 votes for this school board. Who do you want to see on that school board? Who do you want to see up there fighting for your child or fighting for your community? And to be honest, I want to be that champion for you. But in order to do that, I need your votes. I don't just need your votes, I need your money. I need your donations. I need you to volunteer. I need you to tell your friends. I need you to tell your kids. Tell your kids that there's a young 21-year-old who's running for school board. I'm coming. I'm coming for the school district. I'm coming for the school board, but I need your help. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you particularly to the organizers of this event, to the Fairmede Neighborhood Association. Like I said earlier, my name is Carlos Taboagan. I will be the only Carlos on the ballot. And I'm asking for your vote. I've been working in this district for 21 years, and I think I have the experience, the knowledge, and the commitment to serve our communities the best that I can. This is a very important election because this is the last, we are only running for a 2-year term, mind you, because 2 years from now, we're going to start electing our school board by district. So the whole galaxy of relationships and power structures are going to be alter someone. And I think it's time that we have on our school board someone that is committed to the concept and the practice of public education. And I want to submit to you that I am one of those persons. I am committed to maintaining our democratically controlled system of public education. I am not against charters just to be against charters. I am for our children, for a quality education for all of our children. And that's what I promised I will do. Thank you.
Those of you who are here tonight and those that would access the video footage of these sessions are obviously very committed and engaged individuals. And I would just submit to you this. Please, after these elections, ask this school district to look at itself. Don't look at the kids. Don't look at the teachers. Look at the instructional system. And I've talked a lot about that tonight, but let me give you one very concrete example. In this district, we have not developed a concrete policy on the use of time. I just got on my cell phone and determined by my own experiences in the last month that we are wasting 7% of our instructional time because we do not have a policy that says you may not interrupt instruction. The 21 school districts that I talked about earlier, the 25 that I've helped in my lifetime in the last 10 years, that's the second thing we tell them. It costs zero money. That's the second thing we tell them. Instruction is so important, and brain research tells us that every 1 minute of interruption costs you 15 minutes of instruction to reorient the kids to learning. So I'm asking you to vote for the concept that we use scientific principles to examine what we do and change what we do.
Thank you to Hilltop Community for hosting us, and thank you to the Fairmede Council for putting this great event on. My name is Vanessa A. Calloway, and I'm a product of Richmond, California, and the Richmond Unified School District at the time when I attended. And I'm a champion for our students, I'm a champion for our families, and I'm a champion for our employees. I have worked with youth and young adults for over 20 years in a variety of different capacities, and I'm still committed to those young people as well as the young people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis. There's a disconnect within our district and our community, and I want to help bridge that gap. I want to help advocate for our families, for our teachers, and for our students, as well as I want to build the community engagement. We're on prime soil here in Richmond and within our 6 cities that our district lies in. And there's community members that would love to get in and to love to help. And so I would love to give that opportunity, and giving them the opportunity to come in and volunteer and use their expertise will save us a lot of money. And so building relationships, I think, is essential, looking at what the problem is, and then moving forward with a plan of that problem. So vote for Vanessa A. Calloway, November 6th. If you have questions, you can reach me at vanessaforeducation@gmail.com. Again, thank you.
Thank you all for this opportunity once again. And so I'm Consuelo Lara, and I'm running for school board. I've been in the district for quite a while and been a teacher leader. I feel like I'm the teaching and learning candidate here. I was at a house party with my friends and who I taught with. It was like a little reunion, and one of my friends said, "It seems like, you're perfect for this." And I don't know about that, but I do feel like I'm in the right place at the right time with my training, with my education and experience that I am still today. Then I went to Richmond High and working with our at-risk kids and connecting them with a community organization so they're going to get jobs this summer. And then next week we're going to have somebody come in and talk to them about financial literacy. So there's issues that these students have, and I feel like I have the pulse. I'm on the pulse of what their needs are. So I hope you will vote for me. Thank you very much.
great to see you. Thank you. My name is Patricio Duhan, and I'm running for school board because I think we can do better. We can really strive to make this district where almost all students are succeeding and get interventions and support across the board to make sure that all students succeed. And we can become a community and a district where people are moving into to go to the schools rather than looking elsewhere and looking for options once they're here. My priorities on the school board be really focusing on the needs of students and what's happening in the classroom. As part of that, we need to retain our teachers. Research shows that's the number one criteria for student success. So focus on teachers, retention, and professional development, and changing the cultures of our school, one that has culture of success. To the school board, I bring perspectives and experiences that are unique and rolled up are very valuable. I'm a father of two girls that are in the school system right now. I've taught middle school and elementary school in high poverty urban setting and urban schools. An education leader and work in education nationally. And I'm also a Latino immigrant and understand the challenges and struggles that many of our community face. So with that, I bring a lot of value to the board. You can find more information at www.patricio4kids.com. Thank you.
All right, thank you, candidates. Only 1 month left to go. So you can all get some rest in about, another 30 days. Thanks to the Fairmede Neighborhood Council for putting this event together and the Hilltop Community Church for hosting us. This has been a wonderful session, and thank you, audience, for being here and engaging.